here is Ines. She is not a Sarkaz. It seems that everyone understands that Ines is game-changing somehow, and yeah, it's obviously because of her branch, but she's a lot more than that. Why is Ines so good? Well, let's figure that out. Hey Ines, what's up? You hate VTuber and streamer fans? Does that mean you hate me? I'm a big fan of this guy called Zafang21. I mean, all he does is tryhard on this cool mobile game called Arknights, but he's still pretty entertaining to watch. Ines is an Agent Vanguard, so she trades some of her HP and defense that the rest of the Vanguards have for a halved redeployment time, which can be lowered down to 31 seconds with a redeployment potential. Agents work similar to fast redeploy specialists because of this trait, with most of their usefulness coming immediately after their deployment. You know how to use fast redeploys, I shouldn't have to grill you on it. Ines's first talent makes her first hit against every enemy bind them for 5 seconds, stealing 90 attack. This refreshes after every deployment, meaning you can bind the same enemy multiple times using multiple Ines deployments. Stealing is a mechanic where enemy stats will be subtracted the same time they're added onto an ally stat. In this case, the enemies she hits will have 90 less attack, and Ines will gain 90 attack per unique enemy she's hit. The stolen attack resets if you retreat Ines, and the enemy's attack that she hit will also return to normal. If the enemy dies, whatever stat was stolen will also revert for Ines. The stolen attack is the final step in figuring out the operator's attack stat, so it's applied after base additives and attack skill multiplicatives, meaning you can't get crazy scaling from it. Even with all these catches, this is still a very powerful first talent. Think of something like Phantom S3, but actually consistent. 5 seconds of bind is very strong crowd control, with the only condition to it being Ines's targeting. Bind is the only crowd control effect that enemies aren't immune to, so this talent won't be invalidated unlike other sources of CC like stun or levitate. Stealing 90 attack is a nice cherry on top, but not really anything major. Yet. Due to Arknights stages having relatively low enemy count and Ines being centered around redeploying, which would reset these attack stacks. Ines's second talent reduces enemy movement speed and removes stealth when they're in her attack range. After retreating her, she'll leave behind a shadow sentinel that has the same range as her, or whatever they call it in the translation, that maintains this effect. Stealth removal has always been a very strong niche to have, but the fact that not many operators have this effect means Ines is much more powerful. Being from the agent branch, you can reposition her shadow sentinel easily, combining the redeployability and invis reveal, which only one other operator has, seen. A 30% reduction in movement speed isn't that big, but it's noticeable enough and has the potential to be very impactful in long stages. The Shadow Sentinel is arguably the most broken part of Ines's kit. Because she doesn't have to be on the field in order for these effects to work, you get to save a deployment slot while reaping the benefits of that invis reveal and movement speed reduction. Both of Ines's talents go well with her halved redeployment time, so if you want to use her well, you need to be good at planning her redeployments. Hey Ines, what's up? I'm not quite sure where Hodor would be. He's probably in his room again watching you official play unnamed sandbox block game. Ines's first skill makes her next attack give the enemy an 80% arts damage DOT for the next 3 seconds, immediately granting 2 DP. The skill isn't very good, with the only reasonable use for it being AFK, but bringing Ines to AFK clears is not very justifiable because you have to redeploy her. You don't get to make use of her redeployment because the skill is consistent. It's attack recovery SP, which isn't that big of a deal due to its low SP cost, but yeah, you would probably never use this skill unless you're some E0 only or S1 only psychopath. Ines's second skill expands her range and increases her attack. All her attacks give 1 DP and steal 7 attack speed from the enemy up to 10 times, debuffing the enemy to -70 attack speed. She also gains stealth during this skill. Stealth makes Ines unable to take damage from the enemy as long as she isn't blocking them, which is very abusable. It's the better version of camouflage because she won't be revealed when blocked or won't get hit by AoE damage. The attack speed debuff, while it is funny watching slow attack interval enemies like bosses take a billion years to attack, it's hard to make worthwhile because the skill's short duration of 12 seconds. Because Ines starts with 15 initial SP and the SP cost of the skill is 20 at M3, you don't need Bagpipe's Sacred 5th potential to immediately drop Ines and press the skill. Throughout the entire skill duration, if Ines is constantly attacking enemies, she can get 18 attacks in for a total of 18 DP. The expanded range is nice, and Ines is able to hit some cracked ass diagonals on the enemies, which a lot of assassin redeploy melee ops like Texalt or Yatuel don't have. The movement speed reduction and invis reveal from her second talent are also expanded here, but it's not that big of a deal because of the skill's short duration like I mentioned earlier. The Shadow Sentinel does, however, not go away until Ines retreats, and since Ines will be on the field while the skill is up, you can have two sources of slow and reveal on opposite sides of the map, both up at once. Due to the skill's short SP cost of 20 seconds, you can either choose to retreat Ines and reposition her somewhere else, or have her stay on the field on the same tile to activate the skill again. Ines' third skill is the Skill Issue skill. It makes her first deployment cost 0 DP, but you only get to place the Shadow Sentinel of her second talent. Her subsequent deployments will attract that sword over to her, dealing big damage to up to 6 enemies along the way. Ines gets a big attack increase as well as the ability to generate 1 DP for every enemy she hits. Despite this simple explanation, being able to fully maximize the skill requires a lot of planning. It makes use of both of Ines' talents. Because Ines can steal attack from multiple enemies using the sword, she can get a massive attack boost with up to 540 damage using just the Shadow Sentinel alone. The sword has a pretty big hitbox, being able to damage enemies in a 3x3, and because she can hit enemies from across the map, that 5-second bind will also proc, giving her nice multi-target crowd control. Once the sword comes to Ines, she can use her then big stolen attack stat to deal significant damage to targets. With this skill, you need to mark Ines' deployments at certain times in certain areas of the map to get the full use of it, and it's extremely strong because of her being able to damage enemies and get crowd control off, affecting areas across the stage. Take Cactus's 718 Vanguard duo clear for example. In this clear, he consistently used Ines' sword to bind Patriot so that the boss would line up on the mines with the Sarkaz Claw guys to hit them both. Ines herself, meanwhile, helped Saga finish off the Claw guys. For Phase 2 Patriot, a similar trick was used, except with Ines actually being able to damage Patriot because of his lowered defense. Since Ines has shortened redeployment time that comes from her branch, she was also used to take care of the mortar guys that spawn on the top right of the map. The clear ends with style, using the final mine to hit a synchronized Claw guy and Patriot as Ines finishes both of them off. If you're wondering which masteries to put on Ines, put masteries on her S2, unless you're a super sweat then do M6 because both her skill 2 and 3 are used in high-end clears. Anyways, that's about it for this video, see ya. Hey Ines, what's up? That's a tough question. I've never disposed of a body before. Actually, now that I think about it, I'm the one who's constantly getting disposed of. So what you want to do is